Uh,
All right, guys, welcome back to LYTE Conversations, where we bring light to dark situations. John, today we got somebody very special in the building. You got to let
well, they're not in the building, but they're,
you know what I mean.
I
Come
just-
on, tell the people who we have today.
Now, today we got Ken Schmidt. He's the former director of communications for Harley-Davidson.
Say
If you've ever heard of Harley.
I must have heard of Harley
Yeah,
at least once in my
You
life.
got to be a certain level of man to know Harley.
I'll show you right.
And then now he is a author and a speaker. So Ken Schmidt, welcome on.
Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
How we doing today?
I'm doing well. So to what do I owe the pleasure?
Oh, good Lord. What do we owe the pleasure? Today, we just want to pick your brain. We just want to get inside of the man, the myth, and the legend. Could you
Oh,
tell
hell,
us?
say that again, only say it slower.
Oh, nice. Yeah, hey, mom.
Right.
Yeah.
The myth, the legend, Ken Smith. Could you please break it down for the people and for our followers? Could you tell us a little bit about your role as director of communications for Harley-Davidson, and like what exactly was your responsibilities?
That was that's a good question, and thanks. That was the formative and best years of my professional career by far. Lucky enough to land what to me was a dream job.
Yeah,
I was a major league motorcycle enthusiast, and that's putting it lightly, but I was not a Harley enthusiast at that point in my life, because the company's image and what they made didn't really mesh with my personal interest and affinity for motorcycles. But when the opportunity presented itself, and I became aware that, oh my God, I could work in the motorcycle industry, and even on my worst horrible days be surrounded by motorcycles. How bad can it be?
Right.
And it was a time in Harley's history when they were essentially failing, and that's the right word to use, failing. It was about to go bankrupt. So I kind of looked at this opportunity to get involved with a incredibly famous business with a tremendous amount of folklore and visual and audio excitement behind it, and history and drama, and stereotypes and everything else. And think, well, if this thing goes, if I'm able to, with the other folks there, turn this into something, or be part of, a group that turns this into something rich and successful and awesome and potent and powerful again. Well, God, that's about as good as it gets in life. But there was no downside, because the worst that could happen, I was still a young guy, is if the business didn't work and if it failed, I'd have a front row seat to watching that. This is what a business in failure looks like. So this is what not to do.
That's good.
Going forward. And it turned out to be a momentous and awesome ride. My job, as was described to me at the time, guys, was to fix the company's image. And I always have to use fingers for that, because it sounded so sensible then, but it sounds so preposterous and ridiculous now. Which button do I push that fixes the image? Fix the image, and to attract new blood into the business, but also to work the investment community to attract investment.
Okay.
Into the business. So it was obviously a very challenging time, a very heady challenge for me, but it was just glorious. It was so much fun.
Okay, so when you say challenging time, let's talk about time. Around what year was this when you first started with them?
Oh, I was 1985.
85.
Yep.
And you said the company at this point, they're failing?
Oh yeah. Here's the drill, fellas. I'll give you the quick drill down on the history. The company started all the way back in 1903. So Harleys and Ford cars that came out the same year. So been part of the American landscape forever.
Yeah.
But by the late 80s, the company's getting long in the tooth, hadn't been investing in doing all the things that had made it famous, taking great care of customers, providing outlets and opportunities for people to get together and ride, and sponsoring racing, and just putting on a good face of the business. And that happened to coincide with companies like Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki and Kawasaki and BMW, and then eventually Triumph and Ducati and all these other players to come into the US market with really, really great stuff, great hardware at lower prices than what Harleys were priced at. So Harley essentially gave its business away just by taking its eyes off the prize, man. And, you know, in business, you cannot, lethargy will kill you. Arrogance will kill you. This belief that what we're doing now will work forever.
Woo!
Absolutely.
That's good.
Kill you. And in the face of other companies, say, hey, other companies, you know, they weren't dumb. Hey, let's take advantage of this. These guys took their eyes off the ball.
Yep, let's take it. Yeah.
These guys, you know, Harley's market share was over 90%. You know, that's nearly a monopoly, and it completely collapsed. Completely went. The other guys didn't take Harley's market share. Harley gave it to them.
Yeah, they said take it. You know, we don't want it. So when you came on board, what were kind of the first? I mean, obviously it was fix the company, right? But what were like? Okay, dear God, here's day one. We got to do this. Like, what were the kind of the things that you just you hit the ground?
This is great, and I love to tell this because it's gospel truth. My first day of work was on a Monday, and I had to think, you know, I got to get focused on what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, how I want other people to react to that. So I tucked in behind my typewriter.
Times have changed.
Yes, they have. And thank God for that. And I typed up 3 questions that I posted, and I taped on the wall next to my office, actually next to my typewriter. The 3 questions were, what are people saying? What do we want them to say?
Yeah.
And third, what are we doing to get them to say it?
Okay.
Because that to me, and I don't know where I came up with that. It came up earlier in my career because, you know what, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we do. If the people that are important to us aren't talking to other people about us the way we want to be talked about, then that's us. Yeah. That's our fault. Yeah. So we have all these opportunities to have that influence on our, you know, our reputation, what precedes us, what people say about us.
Yeah.
Just that's what we got to focus on. We got to take all this other nonsense that clearly isn't working off the stove and focus on, all right, how are we going to build our reputation, and how are we going to use these resources that we have, our people, dealers and people that ride motorcycles. How can we use them as the conduits to begin talking about us the way we want to be talked about, which meant we needed to do 2 things. We needed to change our vocabulary, you know, how we speak to people, what we say, what our messaging is. And then secondly, change our behavior to bring that language to life. So if we are saying and doing things intentionally different, noticeably different, you know, in meaningful ways that people remember, versus our competitors who are doing the exact same things every day, day in and day out, we can stand out by doing that. And we owe it to ourselves to do that. And I think any business owes it to itself to focus on those 3 questions.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but I'll tell you this, guys, most businesses don't.
Really?
And oh yeah, man. I travel the world. I've been really lucky in my post Harley career because those 2 words, Harley and Davidson, open a lot of doors. But you know, if I had worked at, you know, Acme Ball Bearing Company and did a lot of the same things, nobody would give it what I have to say about anything. But I always, doesn't matter if I'm talking to the president of a major, you know, 100,000 employee conglomerate or, you know, a 10-person plumbing business.
Yeah.
I always ask them the same question. Those 3 questions. What do people say about it? What do you want them to say? I mean, if you could plant a chip in someone's brain, somebody who knows you, what would you want them to say to you about you to, you know, another customer, maybe an investor, somebody who could be the most important person in your business life? You're not there to control the conversation, but that other person is. What would you want them to say? And here's the amazing thing. 99.9 times out of 100, you ask that person that question, what would you want people to say about you? They go, well, you know, I guess what I'd want them to say. And I would go, you guess?
Right.
Like, are you freaking kidding me? This is it. This is somebody talking about your business to Warren Buffett, who's looking for a company to invest in. You guess that's how.
Yeah.
Then the other thing that happens is then I'll say, okay, so you don't know. So obviously we need to work on that. We need to determine exactly what it is you want to be said about. But if I ask that question to, and I do this and get all the top leaders in the business together, whatever the executive team or the leadership team or the ownership team or whatever it is, and give everybody a pen and a piece of paper and just write. I just ask them question number 2. How would you want this business to be described when somebody somebody that you met with last week is talking about you right now? What would you want them to say? Right. And 99.999 times out of 100, everybody answers that differently. And I say, does that not shine light on a really obvious problem here? As you don't even have agreement amongst yourselves of who you are and how you want to be known. How can the market determine that? So how do they know who you are? And if they don't know who you are, you're not competing. You're just a voice in the wilderness like everybody else.
Right. Okay. So what are some of the steps that you personally took in order to say, hey, this is where we're at. This is where we're headed to. And then how did you kind of get them there?
Okay. First things first, and I do this with businesses that I work with, is because that's what we did back then at Harley. Is you always have to take a very serious look at the competitive environment to determine kind of how other businesses present themselves. What do they want to be known for?
Okay.
Right? What do they do well? What do they do better than we do? What are opportunities that we have? And you just make a kind of a simple matrix that this, what are the key things that this business uses to describe themselves? So I'll be, their commitment to quality and customer satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly.
But everybody does it. That's beautiful. But they'll also, they'll use a motorcycle industry, for example. So it's all about rideability, reliability, quality, experience. Even back then, people were using that word. They say, okay, number one rule of communication is that if other people are saying it, you shouldn't be saying it, because essentially that means you're a commodity. You're sending a message to the market that says, I'm just like they are.
Right.
And why would you ever want to do that? And secondly, it endorses them.
Yes.
I'm spewing their language. So we said, look, we need to look at and codify language that we're flat out not going to use. So we're not going to use the predictable rideability, reliability, quality, craftsmanship. We're going to create our own language. So where the other guys are selling reliability, rideability, lean angles, horsepower, miles per gallon, miles per hour, we're going to sell a lifestyle. What does that mean? And the people, what does that mean? I go, who cares? Right? It means something different to everybody that hears it. Bingo.
Right.
It's whatever you picture in your mind. We sell freedom. What kind of freedom? Everybody defines that differently. The point isn't that somebody has to sit down and say, what exactly does that mean? It's you're more likely to remember that. The other guys are selling miles per gallon or miles per hour. These guys are selling freedom. Cool.
Right. Oh man.
Individuality and camaraderie. That was to play to the social side of what we do, is bringing people together. You never see 50 Hondas going down the road together, but you'll see 50 Harleys going down the road together all the time. So that's so true. Camaraderie, family, brotherhood, sisterhood, connectivity, all the magic words that you could attach to that.
That is good.
But also individuality, which is the opposite end of the spectrum. So that's how you present yourself. You customize your bike, the clothing that you wear to make that statement as you're going down the road. So I said, this is what we're going to emphasize. And this is what we're going to bring to life in our dealerships and out in the riding community, this lifestyle that's built on social connecting and bringing people together and enjoying the shared spirit of riding motorcycles. And what's amazing to me is you go anywhere in the world and you talk to motorcycle people, or even people that just kind of tangentially know something about motorcycles. You'll always hear them use the word lifestyle when they talk about Harley. And then when you talk to like the hardcore riders, it's all about the freedom. And I was like,
Wind therapy.
It's working. Yeah, it's work. And guys, any business can do this. Because I get that all the time. Oh, you guys were selling like really cool stuff, and they had Hollywood imagery and all this other stuff. And I said, dude, it's not about what's being sold or made or brought to market. It's about who's doing it.
Yep.
Because that's how you're ultimately known. Any business, whether it's a one-person thing, whether you're selling real estate, whether you're plumbers, whether you're electricians, whether you make TVs, whether you build houses. When someone's talking about your business, they don't talk about what you do. They talk about who you are.
Ooh, yeah, that's it right there.
That is
it right there.
That is the great differentiator in the world. That's what I come back. How do you want people to talk about you? Because when they do, they say who you are. I mean, then you get in conversations with people, and I'll babble all day on this stuff, guys. So you might as well tuck in and get comfortable.
No, this is golden.
And I say, like, remember back when you were like in high school or junior high, and how your reputation, whatever that was everything, and you wanted people to describe you as like cool or great or great musician or great athlete or whatever. How did you want other people talking about you? Well, the same thing goes in business. And if you're in the business world and somebody goes, oh yeah, you should meet Charles, he's an accountant. What? Or well, oh, sorry, talking to Sue over there. What does Sue do? Oh, she's a realtor. That's exactly what you don't want. You don't want to be known and talked about for what you do. You want to be talked about. Oh, Charles I love this guy. You can love this guy too. Pow. Okay. Boop. You've just been served up.
Ooh,
the same rule applies in business, but it takes effort to do that, and it makes you wanting to make that happen.
Yes,
I think
to make that happen.
To go back to what do you want them to say, or what they are actually saying about you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure in one of your interviews, or maybe it was your book, you talked about how you guys, when you guys went on there, you would actually go to Harley stores and like do testings and fittings and then get feedback from the people, right? So
Absolutely.
What would be your advice for more of a plumber or electrician or whatever? How does a business owner find what noise or what people are saying about their business, like from honest feedback? What would you
Here's what I would say to that, guys. And this was one of many what I call accidental discoveries that we had during this massive turnaround project that we were involved in at Harley's. When we started doing what we call demo rides, show up and take a bike for a ride. And nobody else in the industry ever did that, which seems so crazy now, but everybody's afraid somebody would crash and there'd be a big lawsuit. But the joke then, and I still tell it, is that hey, when you're broke, hey, sue us.
What are you gonna get? Yeah.
We ain't got nothing. We'll give you a drill press. So we started, letting people take rides on bikes, and at the end of their, they'd go out and take a 15-mile ride and come back. And typically, when people would get off the bike, they'd want to share, they'd want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh man, this happened or that happened. I really, really like this, really like that. And that was a good and a bad thing. The good thing is people obviously had ideas that they wanted to share. The downside is there's always a long line of people there that are waiting to get on the bike, right? And they see you stand there having a long drawn out conversation with a guy. They're like, "Come on, let's go!" So we said, we need to gather this intel, but we need to figure out a faster, easier way to get it.
Yes.
And just totally out of the blue. And here's where the clouds opened and God reached his hand down and said, I'm going to save you guys from yourselves.
Come on.
We came up with, this is one of those 5-second discoveries. We'll just ask everybody the same question. And the question is what do we need to change on this bike to get you to buy it?
Yeah.
Which was kind of a blunt, presumptive type question. But the discovery we made was that 100% of people, when they're standing right in front of you, when you ask them a question, will answer the damn question.
Yeah.
Nobody said, hey, what do we need to change on this bike to get you to buy it? Hey, go to hell. I'm not going to answer that. It never happened.
Right.
one time people would say, oh, really liked it, but the handlebars were too high or were too low or too wide or too narrow, or the seat wasn't soft enough, seat wasn't firm enough, the foot controls were too far forward. It would be writing all this stuff down, because basically what people are saying is this is what you need to change.
Yeah.
Or allow me to change to make this bike fit me.
Aha.
And you know, and match my view of how I want to be seen on this thing, so that I will buy it. So basically that they're telling us how to fix the business.
Mm-hmm.
These are product things that you should be looking at. And basically, and nobody was asking us, they, you know, can you cure infectious diseases and world hunger? They were saying, you know, can you bend the handlebars this way? And it's like, that's pushing a few buttons on a machine. Yeah, the machine will bend them that way.
Right.
Bing. So we said, we need to incorporate this into all of our everything, not just about product, about service. We're going to just constantly engage in conversations with the people that are important to our business and allow them to tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what they'd like to see us do better. And at the same time, you know, what they like that competitors are doing. Hey, I saw you rolled up on a BMW. What are they doing that we don't do?
Right.
It doesn't matter what people like being asked questions like that, because it makes them feel important for a few seconds.
Yep, they're included.
Making people feel important is kind of the lifeblood of the business.
Yeah.
And they notice that you're asking the question. They also notice that you're listening. And we always made it a point that when somebody is telling you, write it, let them see you writing it down.
Yeah.
Because now that person, oh, you know, this must be some good. The guy's writing it down. How smart am I? Right.
Well, I think
feels good.
Is something that I thought was really key right there was you're not asking them what do they like about your product, right? You're asking them what can we do to be better.
Yes.
Like you're seeking feedback instead of seeking praise.
And I would say, guys, and what became very beautiful about that is that became ingrained in the culture, in the working culture, because we realize that the way people see a business is a kind of a mirror reflection of the culture of the business, right? We see you for who you are, right? Not for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So not only would a conversation with a customer go, hey, what would you like to see us do better? But that's the internal stuff. That's department to department. How can we better serve you? Yep. What do you need from us that you're not getting right now? And when you have like the CEO of the company after, a speech or a presentation, you know, how could I have done that better? That's when, okay, everybody's all in on this.
Yeah.
Everybody understands that, no one person's going to do it by themselves. And it helps everybody when you involve them and get feedback from them.
Right. So with the time frame, how long did it take you guys to kind of bring the company up to the level that you thought it could be at?
Well, here's what's interesting. And I'll try to not make this another one of my long rambling stories, but the belief was, and it's a belief that anybody that made any product in the world would automatically rely on, it was our belief that back in the early stage that if we greatly improve the product, because we had the famous name and people all over the world knew us and had the name tattooed on their bodies and all that other wonderful stuff. If we made the product superior, well, people would come back in droves. They'd line up to buy from us. And that's exactly what happened. The company undertook some of the most sweeping, quality improvement manufacturing processes of any business in the world. So all the car companies and eventually the computer companies, everybody, at least in the US, Harley was kind of the leader in new manufacturing, modern manufacturing, quality manufacturing, all this wonderful stuff, which resulted in introducing new designs of motorcycles and engines that were the culmination of years of effort and investment, and everybody's very excited that, man, when this hits the market, it's gonna blow up. Everybody's gonna love it.
Right.
New stuff hits the markets. Harley's on the cover of like every bike magazine in the universe. which wasn't happening much because the world didn't like us and assumed that, Harley was a dead animal. Soon all these headlines are, Harley's not just building the best stuff it's ever made. Harley's building the best stuff, period.
Yeah.
Best engines, best transmissions. So what does everybody do? Well, we did it, fellas. The toughest critics in the world, these guys at all the bike books are telling all their readers, this is the stuff to buy. Right. That was really awesome, except for one thing, nobody bought. And it's like, what just happened here?
Yeah.
We're building great stuff. The critics are saying it's great stuff, but people aren't buying. Right. So we assumed it was a selling problem, that the dealers or their salespeople weren't doing their jobs properly, which they loved hearing, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
right.
And the long and short of it was, and this is a lesson that a lot of businesses learn the hard way, is you start talking to potential buyers or people who didn't pull the trigger. And they say, yeah, I went to see it, thought it was great, loved it, but didn't pull the trigger. Well, did you see all the quality? Well, sure, I saw the quality. Did you see all the innovation? Sure, I did. Yep. So why didn't you pull the trigger? And they said, well, all the quality, all the new innovation, all the gadgetry, everybody else in the industry has that. So it comes, so like you're back in the game.
Yeah.
But what do you got that justifies the difference in price?
Right.
You're charging more for stuff that we perceive does the exact same thing as the other stuff out there. And it's like, well, we didn't bake that into the process, the whole, the emotional side of the decision. And that was what really triggered we're promoting the wrong stuff. We're dumping all of our money, what little money we had, all our human and financial resources into promoting product.
Yep.
Make it about the product because it's so awesome, which is precisely what everybody else in the industry was doing, because they really had really great products too. And I say, well, that's what a commodity is.
Right.
When the buyer can't tell anything apart because they assume that everything is the same, well made and trustworthy, but geez, everything's the same, so I might as well get the cheaper stuff because I'm going to get the same experience, the same user experience out of it.
So you have to kind of,
and that's kind of when the recalibrating started. That pushing product is working against us, and we determined that the best avenue that we had was glorifying people, instead of glorifying product. As we learned and continue to learn and relearn and relearn and relearn, and what a lot of businesses have been slow to learn is that when you make an effort to delight people, make people feel good about themselves, which doesn't require a lot of effort, just requires some visible passion and energy and enthusiasm. People come back for that. We're not used to being treated that way. We're not being used to it just being made to feel good about ourselves. To have somebody say or do something that we didn't expect them to say or do, well, hell, we like that. And if at the end of the day, I like you just a tiny bit more than the people you're competing against, well, guess what? Your phone's going to ring.
Exactly.
You get in the biz. And that's at the end of the day, it's, we'd take the Wall Street guys out and they would watch us do demos, or they tour the factories and they'd always, what's your return on investment here? And, break all that up by zip code and demographics. And I say, I'm not going to give you any of that, because that's just numbers and data. So you have to look at what's going on here. At the end of the day, we can't sell people anything that they can't get from somebody else for less money. We know that. We think it's the coolest, but that's our view. An outsider looking in, it's two wheels and a motor, same thing everybody else is selling.
Right.
And at the end of the day, people choose to do business with businesses that they like, period. So we're dumping our energy and passion, enthusiasm into being the most liked, visible, passionate people in our industry, because we know that attracts.
That's people. Key right there. That seems like it right there. People do business with people that they like, and it's the we kind of talk about like the Raven fans and things like that.
Yep.
So it's just like you hear about places like Starbucks, Chick-fil-A before you even get there. You hear about Chick-fil-A's customer service before you even get there. So that's just so true. That is so true.
It's unbelievable. Go on.
You're a busy man, so you can hang up on us soon. But
yeah.
So when you first took over, it was a failing company. So chances are pretty good that culture wasn't awesome. Like,
it was a disaster.
Yeah. So this is more of a leadership management question, is what did you do, or you and your team do, to kind of reshape that culture to get everybody to buy into the new direction of where you guys were going?
First and foremost, your point is very well taken. And especially at that time in the company's history, right after really deep layoffs and retrenching. So what you had were a lot of dyed in the wool, older people who'd been there forever. And then you had some, younger, more enthusiastic people at the other end of the spectrum that were trying to drive all this, new change and new attitude into the business.
Yeah.
Well, you can already see that that's going to be problematic, because the older people have been thinking, nobody's going to tell me, how to do this. Totally understandable. What Harley had, and probably the greatest advantage it could have, was a new CEO in the business who understood that, from seeing what was happening in the market, by engaging people in conversations about themselves and their jobs and what they do and how we can each, serve each other better and delight each other. Employees model the behavior of the people above them, period, in any business. And leaders who are hands-off, leaders who are dull, boring, predictable, stare at their feet, complain all day, badmouth customers, all these things that, people do, have employees who do the exact same stuff. So kind of it's incumbent on a business, if you want the culture to change, that starts from the top.
Woo, that's it right there.
And it's not a marketing function. It's not a sales function. It's not an HR, but you can't just turn that over to somebody. Change our culture. And you hear that all these businesses are trying to change their culture. Well, meanwhile, the CEO and the president are flying around in their private planes and smoking cigars. So it's not going to happen, because they need to exhibit the behavior that they want the business culture to be known for, because that's what people are going to want. And they also need to make that not the desired behavior of the organization, but this is the expected behavior. This is what we do here. This is what you're going to do here. What's great about that, guys, is that when people start making more of that effort to engage at a human level, more focused, not on serving each other, but on, somehow delighting that other person, doing something that they didn't expect, or showing them that we're really listening by reacting to what they're saying, by writing their comments and suggestions down, that they begin to model that behavior too, because at the end of it feels better. When you see people around you are doing and saying and acting the way you are, it's okay, I'm part of something here. I'm not just somebody who's going through the motions and picking up a paycheck every 2 weeks. It becomes contagious behavior, and that's kind of the linchpin. Is absent leaders modeling that behavior, absolutely nothing changes.
So, man, you have said a mouthful. He said it like a mouthful today.
Like gold here.
Speaking of reacting to what people are saying, I'm gonna have to react and listen to this 3 to 4 times. Like seriously, like you've dropped so many gems, and I really hope that the people who are listening are really like digesting this, because from what you were saying, I'm hearing it and I'm seeing it. Like, we truly can use this in any industry we're in. Like,
it's
real estate, businesses, and things like that. So, Mr. Schmidt, we really appreciate your time.
My pleasure, guys.
We appreciate the gems that you have dropped upon us. I know my mind is like going like 1,000 miles per hour. Like, okay,
I got things to do.
It's like, let me write down the 3 things that you started.
Hey, what, guys? Here, do this. Tell anybody to do this. Put it on the back of your phone, on your desk, next to your phone, just as a reminder that anytime somebody calls you about something, that's a potential client, and all you're focused on is, got to get this deal, got to have this meeting, got to make this happen. So that's the mindset we have to break. It's What do I want this person to remember and tell somebody else about? So I think, all right, this person's asking me questions about something that I have for sale. What do I want them to remember about me? Because if I'm not focused on that during the call, all I'm doing is answering their questions, right? And trying to, sell whatever it is I have to sell or make that deal happen. That doesn't move the needle forward, as you just constantly need to remind yourself that I want this person that I'm about to talk to build my reputation and tell other people about me or about my business and what we're doing here. That's what I need to be focused on. Answer all the questions, get them what they need, but I need to be thinking beyond that, like I'm thinking further down the road, what's going to happen when I'm not there and this person's talking about me.
That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah, I don't know.
We can go no further. I can't top that. Can you top that? We can't top that. Mr. Smith, man, we appreciate it, man.
Thank you so
Listen,
much.
if y'all are watching this, man, check out Ken Schmidt. He does speaking, he has books, he got a lot of things going on. And if you listen to this podcast and this episode once, listen to it twice, and listen to it 3 times, because there's so much that you can take out of this. Y'all, we are over, we are out. Mr. Smith, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joy and a pleasure for me, guys. Thanks for including me.
All right, thank you.